Good afternoon. Welcome to Real People. Real People is a series of interviews, articles, really more conversations, articles featuring real people. And today I'm really happy to be sitting with Candice Byrd of YW Strive. She is their enterprise specialist. And welcome, Candice.
Hello, David. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We were just laughing off camera that our whole relationship has been virtual until last week at the parking lot with the pop-up for the Labyrinth Made Goods.
Yes, a very unchance happening.
Exactly. So this is a conversation about your life and the inspiring decisions that you've made and the direction you've taken. And I want to share that, learn more about it myself and share it with other people as well. So as I said, this is your story, so you're in charge of it. You can start with the past, talk of the present, and then go to the future, or you can work the other way backwards if you want. So it's up to you. If you were writing a story about Candice Byrd, what would you like us to know?
Ooh. Um, there's a lot that goes to it. I know a lot of people say like, "Oh, if they made a movie about my life, it'd be it'd be this and that and that." But I'd say like I know I would watch it. I think it would make an intriguing series. But I won't get into everything.
Whatever you want.
I I have to say that my passion today for the work that I do, when people ask like, "Would you want to do this? Would you ever do construction? Would you ever do this type of work?" And I'm like, I love what I do. I love organizing. I love working with people. I love social interacting, and whatever improves other people's lives. And that all comes from my past and experiences because I had quite a few people along the road, starting as like a teen in my life who were like mentors and um, like big sister type of folks in different organizations that I looked up to and really kind of helped me along the way. And I found that to be a very important piece of what it took in me growing up. I don't have siblings. I'm an only child, so that means there's a limited amount of, um, I guess I won't want to say shoulders to lean on that are at your, kind of at your own age or a little bit
Right.
older than you. There wasn't a lot of that. So I had a very risque teenage years. Um, Juvenile delinquency, a lot of that. I spent about 70% of my teens in incarceration. And that is where I learned a lot of my life lessons. They always kind of say you're a product of your environment or like nature versus nurture. And I think that theory tends to speak to me a lot because I wasn't raised to go through the things that I experienced. Like that wasn't my upbringing. That's not the household I lived in. That's not the neighborhood I lived in. So me making these choices that led me to those struggles were all my own and something that I decided to go off the grid and do. Um, so it's hard for me to say like, where, to speak to that theory and say that that's exactly what it is.
You're not
It's
blaming anybody. You're owning it. You're
Yeah,
owning decisions that you made. And
yeah, because it'd
every,
be crazy to
no,
say.
go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just like, it'd be crazy to be like, oh, it's my mom's fault, it's my dad's fault, but they did the best that they could, and I was just like, I'm not listening. I'm out of here. Like, I'm gonna do what I want. So,
And are you saying that incarceration actually gave you something positive?
yes, yes, and
Interesting.
And I can't, this sounds weird, but I can't say that I would change a lot of the things that I did, at least as a teenager. As an adult, that's different. As a teenager, you still kind of get that second chance because you get a juvenile record, then you get an adult record. As a juvenile, the mistakes that I made gave me like the patience, the wherewithal, the street smarts, and the ability to connect to folks now that are usually, overlooked or underserved. That type of perception for me. So I spent about a year and a half in a group home. Um, and that was the key place that taught me like patience, ownership of your own, faults. We had what was called like group help. So this is like where 10, like however many people there get in a circle around you, and you can't leave that circle until you say, I am responsible or I own the thing that I did. Like whether it's an attitude, whether it was being rude to somebody else, it doesn't matter. If they called you out on it, until you saw it the way they saw it, you're not leaving that circle. So as an adult, it's like when you get that constructive criticism, it's nothing. You know what I mean? When you do something wrong, it's no big deal to be like, yeah, I did that. I'm sorry. Now, and I couldn't imagine who I would be today if I didn't have that like, that direct, um,
That's such an
direct
important
confrontation.
lesson for all of us.
Oh my goodness. If everybody could go through it, I don't know what kind of world we'd be in. Because, yeah, I look at people today and I'm like, ooh, you might need group help, you know?
And you talked about how much you love your job. Can you talk a little bit about the job and what impact you think your experiences are having on women that are in the program?
Yeah. So currently I facilitate like career, I, fa- I struggle with the proper words to say this because there's a lot to it. I focus on career advancement, empowerment, and workplace development. That is the short story. And there's a lot that goes with it. But for women, and especially women who have been through the system before, it means so much to me because a lot of the skills that the YW Strive program, which is the program that I'm in directly work with, teaches so much more than just how to go to work and how to get your job, how to build your resume and show up to work every day. Like it's so much deeper than that, and that's where my love for it comes in. To watch people say, I never thought that I could do this until I came here and practice and you gave, like to share that confidence and um, to build up someone else as opposed to where they've lived life always being knocked down and always being like someone doubting them. It feels that intrinsic value is so strong in that. I couldn't, like, it's weird for me to, I don't know if I'll ever find as a fulfilling job right
Isn't it
now.
amazing how giving and helping doesn't just assist or provide comfort to the other person, but it makes you feel stronger and more whole and more fulfilled.
Very much so. Like, yeah. Because I can tell, like, the comfort I get in telling them, like, I've been where you've been and I'm not judging you because I've sat there and the look on some of their faces and they're like, you've been to jail too? And I'm like, yeah, and it's not, it doesn't end there. Like I recently bought the YWCA shirts, the second chances. I support second chances. Oh, I couldn't wait to get that. I got two of them because it's so frustrating to think that people always judge you by your past. Like they look on a piece of paper and they define you immediately without ever knowing who you are. And I literally want people to like be that type of shock. Like you did, I mean, you've been through what? I would have never known. I would have never guessed. Never judge a book by their cover, ever, because you don't know the qualities and the possibilities that person has. That one choice or mistake, or however many, is not who they are and not what they're destined to be forever, especially with guidance, especially with support, especially with the right tools in their hands. Somebody could build anything. So you just can't be that way.
You are providing the shoulder that you talked about earlier that you didn't really have growing up. Interesting.
Yes. And that's the favorite thing about like that's the part that makes me happy. And it's hard not to get close to like some of the participants.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Not have like a special little place in your heart for them. Like I just want to see you win so bad. And I think in my interview that I did with Kate and Kara, I mentioned like she said, "What's the hardest part do you think about working or doing this type of job?" And it was internalizing other people's like shortcomings because you want them to win so bad, and when they can't do something, I always feel like I could have did more. I could have did this for you. You know what I mean? And I was like, I think I'm gonna have a hard time with that, and I kind of still do. Like if things like don't always go perfect, but they just, you know what I mean? Like maybe it just takes a little more time. It's not a race. It's a marathon to each, everybody in its own time. Um, so I just keep reminding myself of that. And it's not all me that does it. It's whatever's within, they have to be ready. And it's whatever, skills or abilities are within them also to do so. You just got to pull it out,
There are
get them
some
doing
amazing women in the program who it's been so exciting through Labyrinth Made Goods to see them kind of opening up and finding their voice. They've always
it. Yeah.
had it, but they're finding it and they're using it and speaking up for themselves and their opinions, feeling enough dignity to voice an opinion and
Yes.
to speak it, which is really a beautiful thing to watch happen.
Absolutely.
So you talked about owning things and sitting with your circle of 10 or ever how many sisters that were going to hold you to it until you owned it. Did you move from that halfway house just onto, was that what turned your life around?
Heck no. Heck no, David. It was a long road after that. I think it just came out with a little bit. No, I was actually pretty bitter still after that. I actually went to DOC, which is Department of Corrections, immediately after that. So I never successfully completed the group homes programs and steps. So
Where did the,
DOC. Hmm.
sorry, but let me just ask you,
Oh
you
yeah.
used the word bitter. What what was the bitterness directed at? Just everything?
Yeah, my situation. How dare my parents allow them to send me here? Or how could my mom call my PO and tell them, I was out after curfew? It's all their fault. That type of secondhand anger. Like I should be home doing what I want to do, and everybody's trying to control me.
Got it.
That attitude. Yeah. So it was a lot like really have to stop and change your perspective somehow. And I can't even explain how or when like it clicked. Maybe when I got my own kids and not even immediately. I don't know.
What how did you move on? How did you move past that bitterness, and where did you go from incarceration?
So not too long after I was released, I became a mom. And so it kind of went from missing out on that teen era to immediate adulthood, when I should have like been in college. And I wasn't too upset about that, but I knew, and I think that's a lot of the steps that took it there because I knew I had to be doing more because now it's not just me. I can risk my life however I want to, if it only affects myself, but it doesn't, it affects your family as well. Um, but when you bring a little one into the world, it's like, you know, there has to be something for them later when they grow up. Like somehow they don't have to go through everything that I went through, which then gave me the perception of how my parents had to have felt. Like that's all they wanted for me. Why couldn't I see that, Just don't
Uh-oh,
want
it
me to have to
sounds like
struggle.
you're doing some growing up there.
Man. It took a long while, but yeah, it's like this is all my parents were trying to tell me. What the heck? So now I'm fighting for that to like keep them from that, stress. And along the way, it's like I know when I've done something wrong and the million times that I've apologized to my mom for all the things that I did when I was a kid. And she's still kind of like, like, yeah, all right. I'm like, oh man, okay. And yeah, I just don't want to see them have to struggle. And I remind them regularly, like, sometimes we don't have things. Sometimes we ask for things and I can't do it. Had mom did this, this, and this, you might be able to have those opportunities. Or you might be able to buy that thing over there, but I can't afford it right now. Like I have to be realist with them, um, to get them to see the adverse effects of the decisions that they make now and how much it can affect your future.
Do you talk? I think you told me last week that your kids, as you call them, are actually teenagers now.
Yes, they're still my babies though.
Of course. And do you talk with them about your life experiences and choices as a way to help them try and avoid it? Though you know very well, as the mom, it's still their choice.
Yeah, yeah. I think uh, I still feel like a little bit of the disconnect was my parents. I never remember having a conversation about the things that they did wrong in their lives. Like if they
Interesting.
ever got in trouble, I wouldn't know about it. They're not even going to tell me to this day. Um, so that was one of the things I said that I would do different, to tell them, you know, honestly, why I'm telling you you should not do this. So I can kind of give them a timeline. Like I made this choice, kind of like what you're trying to do right now. This is what happened to me, step, 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 step. And I'm just telling you right now, you don't want that. And they'll kind of look and be like, you did that? And I'm like, yes, but the point is, and, they're like, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. They kind of reflect, like, yeah, you're right. That's kind of messed up. And I see, the struggle that it's causing you now. They don't say it like that, but that's the gist. They get it. And
That's pretty
um,
powerful.
yeah, and I think that's important to me is that honesty. I don't want to be the just because I said so, because that was the big thing for me. Like, but why? You always get that, but why? And it's more than that, it's way more than that. And I think they respect that. I think so, because they're like, yeah, all right. And I haven't had a big catastrophe yet. Nothing like, when I was a kid. So I'll take it. I'll take it. They're pretty good.
You've got a big benchmark to look at from your past, apparently from your risque
Yeah,
past.
they'd have to really like they'd have to do some things to shock me. Like, oh, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, but there's also not much they can put past me. So
I'll bet. I told you the first time I saw that picture of you and the women, I said, what a beautiful countenance and person you were. but there was just the teeniest glint of do not mess with me in your eyes.
Oh,
You had
thank
this beautiful balance of beauty, but don't don't put anything past me. So
yeah.
sounds like you've earned that.
I'll take that. Yeah.
So what's the future? You
Ooh,
love your current job, but what's the future
wow. It
that
has
you want?
changed that I want. It has changed so much in like the last 2 years, especially with the pandemic. But I have to tell you what got me to the interview to where I'm at today. Job coach, Labyrinth House. I was actually a client of the Labyrinth House at the time. And I shared my future goals with one of the job coaches, my dream of opening my own nonprofit for teens, troubled teens, of course, to give them that space to be creative, be inventive without any judgment, without, this isn't a place where I come in and tell you what to do and how to live your life. This is the place where you choose like what works for you. Like a lot of hands-on learning, music, art, sports. Because I noticed that the alternative school children, they don't have the opportunity anymore to participate in team sports or extracurricular activities. So what's left? Streets, friends, hanging out, and that kind of puts them back in that cycle of what got them into the alternative school in the first place. Um, and to really explore something that you love, kind of get your focus off of the things that you shouldn't be doing. Like when I was running track or doing sports in school, I stayed out of trouble because this is what I love to do. It was fun for me. It was fun. I made it to practice. I came home because I was tired, did my homework. And that was the thing I did during the season. Um,
For me, it was swimming.
Swimming. Okay. See, you kind of look like a swimmer. I see that.
If you spend hours in the water every day or on the track, you're right. You go home, you do homework, you
Yeah.
eat, go sleep, go do it again.
Yeah. You're focused on something and you like it. And that was my main goal is give them that extra to do if they've never been interested before and free of charge so their parents aren't struggling. There's no barrier of, oh, buy the team uniform, buy this equipment, you know. So that was one of my big goals. And I felt like that I couldn't, if I were to move, like I also kind of wanted to do. I don't have that community connection like I do here. I was born and raised here, so there's a lot of folks here that I know their skills and what they're, if they're willing to help with this dream or not, or whatever. And I wouldn't know that or have that sense of connection somewhere else.
You'd have
So
to
I was kind of like,
rebuild it.
hmm,
You'd have to rebuild it, start over.
yeah, yeah, which takes years, to really get, that sense of, you know, sense of connection. So
Did you use
um,
past tense for that dream?
I did. I'm scared, David. I am so scared of like failure, and I talk about it every day in the classes and the cohorts, and I tell them each time. I might be telling you to do this, but I'm also just as afraid as you are to start writing that business plan. Just so you know. So I get it.
Of everything that you've come through and that you've accomplished and turned yourself around, don't let a business plan stop you. There are people out there to help you.
Okay. I mean, yes. And
I mean, don't let fear stop you from doing anything that you want to do. You got to own that fear and make it a source of energy and drive rather than stopping you. Figure out how to make it push you forward and ask for help and take baby steps. You
yeah.
know, if that's still a dream that you want to have, I have no doubt you can make it happen.
Mm.
Honestly.
That's the scary part. No, you're absolutely right. There's nothing keeping me from doing it. And being a part of, YWCA, I learned, the where to start and what it looks like, assisting and facilitating others to, walk through it. So,
And organization and structure and
yeah,
kind of things. I mean, where you're at right now is a great place. It's not inconsistent with your dream. It's
right.
really good instructional training for your dream.
Hmm.
So the bad news is once somebody tells me what their dream is
Oh no.
and they still want to have that dream, it's not like they've decided they have a new dream or a different dream. I won't let it go. If you want that dream, then let's figure it out. Because what you're describing is so necessary.
It is.
The arts are being canceled out in school and other sorts of programs and opportunities for Black and brown children and children that are disabled and other sorts of children that don't have the opportunity to find those outlets somewhere else. They're just not getting them.
Hmm.
So you have a good dream, and someday, separate from what we're doing right now, let's have another conversation, not on Zoom, a little more about your dream and what you think it takes to make it happen.
I can agree to that for 100% sure. I think that'll get us start to a mapping and process, and you can talk me right out of my negative thinking.
Yeah,
I'll let you do it.
I
I'm
have all
open to it.
sorts of fears.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh
But
man.
you just have to push through them. And, failure in my life and in Jim's in my lives has, we've done projects that haven't worked out, and that sometimes they've been the most educational or instructional.
Mm.
So fear of not succeeding or fear of failure is just it's natural, but you just have to move past it.
Hmm.
Like you've moved past so many things. So, I'm going to hold you to it, and we'll set up a time. And that's the whole reason for these conversations with real people, because I never knew that. And when two real people sit down and talk together, and those real people have a mission and some skills to help make that mission happen, like with Labyrinth Made Goods. I mean, we
Yeah.
took that from an idea to a full-fledged business that's prospering and moving forward. So that is my goal for these conversations, is to learn more about people and how we can help each other. So unless you have anything else you want to add at this point, you've been really nice with your time, and I've loved learning more about you. And let's have the next conversation about your dream.
Agreed. I thank you so much, David, for doing this. Overall, I think it's wonderful outreach, and everyone needs that opportunity to kind of just share,
And to
what
help each other. It makes us feel good to help each other. It takes a lot
absolutely.
of energy to be divisive and negative,
Yes.
all going out, but helping people, the energy comes into you. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
That's the feeling you can't touch. All right.
You have a great day, and thank you again for taking time with me.
You too, David. I'll talk to you soon.